You are all awesome. First, let me make an announcement. I have laryngitis. I'm recovering from it. So if my voice squeaks or goes up and down, I'm not going through puberty. It's just laryngitis. When I was first asked to present this morning, I frankly thought, what in the world could I say to a group of young people who are facing challenges today? What were the lessons of my challenges in the 70s and 80s? It was a different time. Well, on reflection, yeah, the facts were different, but the patterns are not. And so there really are some lessons to be learned, perhaps some ideas to advance, and listening to the remarkable Jerry and the extraordinary Michelle, who I admire so much. You know what? Look what they're doing, and the lessons that they have gleaned from their own experiences can be passed on to future generations, and hopefully some of what I learned in the struggles of the past will also be helpful. So sometimes, the smallest anecdotes tell the biggest story. So I'll tell you some anecdotes from my life. Law school, Alexis referred to one of them, and that was getting a women's restroom from the basement up to the third floor where the library was, where they had 2 men's rooms. And so we said, well, we'll take one of them, urinals and all, it's okay. It took 3 years. One of my law professors, in the middle of going over a case, literally stopped, pivoted, and looked at me and said, Ms. Schenk, why are you here? Why are you taking up the seat of a man who obviously is going to have to support a family? Well, I will tell you that before then, I wasn't very enlightened. And in fact, now I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but during my undergraduate years, it was sort of okay to have quotas on the number of women admitted to medical school or law school. I didn't think differently, but those moments made me think differently. And so there were very few women in the law school, but we decided to band together to bring about changes. So that was the first lesson that I learned, the importance of working together, working with other women. We do work together well. We're told we don't play team sports, so we're not really good at teamwork. Baloney. We're great at teamwork. We're great at brainstorming. We're great at giving credit to one another's ideas. Well, fast forward, I passed the bar and started to look around for a job in San Diego. The law firms, the prestigious ones, the not so prestigious ones, they told us, we don't hire girls. Clients don't want to deal with girls. Maybe if you agree to do research in the library, maybe we'll think about it. So we went to work for the public agencies, which were under affirmative action guidelines in places like San Diego Gas and Electric. And they said, well, we'll put this female in the law department. She can't do much harm there. So we started on a path of trying to be a part of the business community, the civic community. They didn't want us. They didn't want us. We tried to join a committee of the Bar Association. I mean, I can't tell you how it swells my heart that Jerry was the president of the San Diego County Bar, because when my friends and I tried to join a committee, the then president of the bar went to my then fiance, who was on the bar board, and said, Hugh, what's with these women? We have one woman on the bar board. Isn't that enough? They didn't want us to volunteer. So we decided to form our own organization, the Lawyers Club. And it was a way for the couple dozen of us to leverage our ideas to channel our rage, because we were becoming enraged. Alexis mentioned the Grant Grill, where it's not that you were not allowed in unless accompanied by a man. You were not allowed in if you were female, period, with or without a man. But it wasn't the only place. This university club, which was across the street, men only. Look at the founding plaque out there. I'm proud to say my name is on it when we changed the rules for women to be allowed to become members. So, again, San Diego was very different back then. Broadway was lined with sandwich shops and tattoo parlors for the sailors getting off the ships. Weren't too many places to eat lunch. It was a place where people would come together at noon, the mayor, judges, bankers. It was and we were kept out. So we were getting angrier and angrier. And then we looked around at the society around us. Women wanted to start getting into different kinds of jobs. Firemen, policemen, linemen, soldier, barred by law, right? Women could not get credit in their own name. So if you wanted to start a business or if you were going to start on your own as a lawyer, you need what? A line of credit. Couldn't get it unless a man co-signed. Now that man could be in a nursing home and disabled and you're his executor, but that's okay, it's a man's signature. Well, so we started the Women's Bank. A group of us, again, we got together, we said, how hard can this be? People start banks all that. Well, Ronald Reagan is governor, so maybe that might be a little bit of a challenge, but we were able to overcome those challenges. Girls were not allowed to participate in organized or professional team sports. Well, beach volleyball in a bikini was always okay, but they wanted to participate in school or other places. And so through the Lawyers Club and through other organizations that were in existence at the time, the National Organization for Women, the National Women's Political Caucus, the Business and Professional Women's Group, all of them provided a vehicle to channel our rage. The Women's Bank no longer exists. Why? Because the banks figured out women are good customers. We can make money off of them. So those kinds of institutions disappeared. But the point was that we had a premise. And the premise is that acceptance of these injustices was not an option. So if there's any idea that's worth spreading is acceptance of any injustice that you see, whether it's in your neighborhood, whether it is in your community, whether it is in the world, it is not an option. And once you accept that notion, each one of you has the ability to change the world. And women change the world differently than men. We have a different life experience. It's not that we're better or worse, as Michelle said, that we're just different. And that perspective is hugely important. We are daughters, we are sisters, we are wives and mothers, and we're daughters-in-law. Boy, is that something to a different perspective around the world particularly. So to bring that perspective to bear on every issue that faces us as a society, every challenge that is still out there, and there are so many challenges. Again, I was thinking, my challenges seemed so simple then. Stating the obvious about going to someplace to have lunch or getting credit in my own name. Or, this one, you'll love this one. When I went to register to vote after I got married and moved, we had to say whether we were Miss or Mrs. Right? Now, some of us didn't change our name, so it created some confusion because Mrs. Schenk was my mother, and Miss indicating that I'm single, I wasn't. So what to do? Men only had to sign in as Mr. And as Michelle so aptly pointed out, you can make change through the courts, but the court threw my case out. And the judge, a federal court judge in San Diego, laughed and said, well, if I do this, what will I tell my wife? Put up in court. So, go to the legislature. You can instigate change by getting together and doing it in your community, through the legislature, through the courts, through the mindset, changing the mindset of the people around you. Never happens with the first discussion or the first argument, but when you are dealing with people who have some common sense, and you've got to give people credit for having common sense, when you bring an issue to them, they say, oh my gosh, you are absolutely right. So looking at those sort of simplistic challenges that we had through the lens of the past and the rearview mirror, and you look at the challenges today, I feel that the toughest challenges are ahead of us, not behind us, not behind us. The explosion of rapes on college campuses, sexual violence in the military, domestic violence and abuse, the gender-based injustices that still persist in education, in healthcare. These are the issues that we must face together, and individually, each one of us has to step up to it. We have to say that acceptance of these injustices are not an option. It's not an option. And then you draw on your own life experience. We all look through, as I said, look through life through the prism of our life experiences. Mine, I'm the daughter of a Holocaust survivor. My parents, too, were immigrants. My mom always had a very heavy accent. My father tried to speak English, but with great difficulty. Their view was, we have enormous gratitude to this country, and our children will be Americans. Yes, we'll eat funny foods at home and talk that funny language, Hungarian, which was my first language. And yes, we will celebrate our holidays at home. But out there, you are going to assimilate, and you are going to be American, and you are going to give back. And so for me, doing nothing was not an option. I had to ask myself, why did my dad survive? Why did my mother be able to get it? Why am I here? Why am I here? And each one of us, whatever your own life story, and every one of you has a life story, every one of you has had a challenge, every one of you. You have to say, why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? And if it is only for yourself, I would say that that is a pretty empty life. And I am quite concerned about how busy we've all become. Wherever I go, people are doing this, this looking, all of the little gadgets that we have, and we're so busy looking at. I was in a restaurant on a number of occasions where a young couple together, and they don't exchange a word. They must be talking to each other on their on their iPhones. I mean, at least I hope they are. But we're so busy, and we're so busy with children's soccer games and children's school and the helicopter parenting. And so what's come of that is, even in Lawyers Club, my beloved Lawyers Club, they have these the talks on work-life balance. And the balance is always about, all right, how do you get your work done and become a partner and really have a satisfying career, number one, and how do you balance relaxation, eating, sleeping, family? But nowhere in there is that element of how do we balance so that we can contribute to our society, so that we can say that injustice is not an option for us, and we will do something about it because we are privileged to live in San Diego, to live in America, and we have a responsibility to give back. And I will just end on this. The issue that still tears at my heart is what is called income inequality now, right? And the erosion of the middle class. It can be called a lot of things. I call it disgraceful. And it's disgraceful because it falls most heavily on women and women with children, where 40% of children are being raised by households where the mother is either the sole breadwinner or the major breadwinner. And this is going to erode our society in ways that we can't even imagine. So if there's any idea that I can leave with you to spread, is do not accept this. It is not an option. Thank you very much.